Alright, so today we're going to actually use some trig functions to actually identify missing lengths on our triangle. Okay, so this is where we start getting some more useful stuff with trigonometry. So we're given basically in this situation, we're given an angle, only one side length, and it wants me to find a specific side length. Okay, so the first things first is we're going to need to figure out which two sides it's talking about in relation to that angle. So remember, with trig functions, we use our trig properties, which is sine, cosine, and tangent. And we have to remember that it's SOHCAHTOA, right? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So if this is my angle right here, okay, I have the side that is opposite that angle, and I have the hypotenuse. So which of my trig functions would that be? That would be sine. Okay, so I'm going to be using sine on this one to figure out my missing piece. This time I'm not using a generic angle like we did last time. We're actually going to use the full trig function here. So to set this up, it's going to be sine of 61. Sine of 61 is equal to the ratio of the opposite side over the hypotenuse. So 11 over x. Okay. Now, this is where we get into some fun. We need to get the x by itself. So we're going to times by x to each side. Cancels out there. We're left with x times sine of 61 equals 11. Then I've got to divide by sine of 61 to each side. Okay, so x is going to equal 11 over sine 61. Now what do I do at that point? Well, this is where calculators come into play. And sorry I'm zoomed in so much because this worksheet is so super tiny. But we have our trig functions on our calculator. Okay, sine, cosine, tangent, they're right there. We also have the inverses, which we'll get to later. Okay, and to do those, you just push the button again. Okay, so you just push it once to do just regular sine, cosine, tangent. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do 11 divided by the sine of 61. Okay, just like I had it written. And when I push enter, I get my answer. That longest side is 12.5768, blah, blah, blah. This wants me to round to the nearest tenth, evidently. So that's the first decimal point. So I'm going to say x is equal to 12.6. And that would be my answer. Okay, so the longest side is 12.6. And it doesn't give me inches or anything like that, but 12.6. Again, I did that with just an angle and just a side. So we can do this without having two of the sides now. All we need is an angle and one side, and we can figure out what the length is. Notice where you can start getting some of these applications, right? If you know an angle that you're looking at something and a one distance, you can figure out any missing distance that you're talking about. This is why they use trigonometry, and why when they talk about finding distance, they always talk about triangulating, because you need a triangle in order to really find any distance. Okay, let's look at another one. Let's look at this one right here. So number 5. I have this angle right here, and I know this side, and I know this side. So that side is adjacent. That side is the hypotenuse. So that would be an example of a cosine, right? So the cosine of 56 would have to equal the ratio between the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. So 16 over x. So again, same idea. I'm going to multiply by x, and then divide by the cosine, divide by cosine 56 to each side, and you're going to get x is equal to 16 divided by cosine of 56. Notice my s's look just like my 5's. They always have. I don't know how to fix it. And then your calculator does all the work from there, right? So in my calculator, I'm going to put 16 divided by cosine of 56, and I get the answer 28.6. So x is going to equal 28.6. And that would be your final answer there. Okay, let's do one more. Let's look at this one, number 7. So this time, there's my angle, and I know the adjacent side, and I want to find the opposite side. So to set this one up, it would be tangent, because I don't have the hypotenuse in here, right? It's opposite and adjacent. So tangent of 48 has to equal the opposite side, x, divided by 20. So this one's nice because this time I'm not actually dividing by x. So that means all I have to do is multiply by 20 to each side. So that means x is equal to 20 times tangent of 48. So tangent of 48, 20 times tangent of 48 is going to be 22.2. So x is going to equal 22.2. And that's your answer. And that's all you're doing with the trig functions. Pretty easy, right?